So, Julie.
How do I draft a contract without loopholes?
How do I draft a contract without loopholes? I love this class.
Without what?
Loopholes. Victoria.
Okay, so I'm gonna ask this. How do you know when to restrict transparency with an external partner to avoid potential conflicts?
What do you mean? Break it down.
Okay, so this is that if you started business with a culture of being transparent, like being open with everything that has to be a business, and you have external partners, and this person is an external partner, not really into. So of course, core partners should know integrities of everything, but this is someone who's really integrity. And at some point, due to free access to different of your medium, your channels, your pages, and everything, and even mails, so you can access things that should not be in his own space. So how do you avoid exactly?
How did the person get access?
Now the reason again is that to help upload certain things on our channels, we need access to all those things. Yeah.
The person was like,
Now the reason again is that to help upload certain things on our channels, we need access to all those things.
The person was like,
now the reason again is
that's a very nice
like everybody in the family has rights percentages, like
okay.
all those people and all of them, family ownership. How do you show? But then even
amazing question, and I hope that we'll be able to address these questions right through this slide. So let's move on. So here are my thoughts. If I was to, sorry, please can
So if it's not just as in one of that one that pops that I think I asked my lawyer was how do I as in this VAT and FIRA, sorry, VAT and VAT and all of that stuff, so I don't get into tax, so I don't get into trouble with the government.
all right. So yours is also about tax because you started last. Alright, so we'll try and talk about some of the questions later on. But when I start the class, when we start going into it, I'm sure I'll address some of the questions. Alright. So here are my thoughts. Alright, and I would use a case study to answer some of my own thoughts, right? For me, my question would be about what are the legal foundations that I need. So are there legal foundations that I need to do, alright, for my business to thrive? Alright, so these are the questions I will ask myself, and then where do I begin? Or if I've already started my business, like some of you have, where do I begin? Do I go back, and retrace my steps? What do I need to do, and how do I need to do it? Alright, so I noticed a company that was very interesting to me. Alright, and I wanted to just talk about that company. It's called Skin. How many of you have heard about Skin? It's owned by Kim Kardashian. How many of you know Kim K? Alright. Now the reason why I use that, even though she's not your typical entrepreneur, but she's an entrepreneur all the same, and she's successful. And she has managed to use the internet, right, to sell her products without having a warehouse, without having basic things, all right? So she's mastered the art of e-commerce. Okay, so those are some of the things that I would like to address as well as we go on. I think someone has an e-commerce business. Yes. All right, so I looked at her business and I was inspired when I listened to how she started doing it. A lot of us have things like that that happen to us. She said, so Skims is like is a shapewear company. So they do shapewear for women, they do lounge dresses. Lounge dresses are like your pajamas, things you can wear in the house that's comfortable, all right? And certain things came up. When she was starting this business. Now she's not a novice to business, all right? And she has a team of lawyers that can advise her and things like that. But for this particular business, she went out on a limb. She went out on her own. She didn't ask for legal advice, because if she did, there's some complications that she had with this business that she most likely would have had, all right? But she was conducting like a study. How can I engage those on social media to become my natural clients, my organic customers, all right? And so, Skims, she said, how did the idea come? She always wears shapewear. She likes her figure being everything intact. But she noticed that every undergarment that she ever wore or bought from any existing company only had two shades. They either had black or they had white. And even if they had new, it wasn't the shade of her skin. So because she's a fashionista like Ifyo, right? She would go into, when she buys from the local store, she would, she would alter it. She would have to dye it with something, to get her skin shade, because she's very particular about, her undergarment showing and things like that. And then one day she was dying, she was frustrated. Why am I dying this thing? Why am I stressing myself? And then she had a brilliant idea. What if I make shapewear in all skin tones for every woman? Now that's an inclusive business, right? It's also going to be a very diverse business. In that moment, in her kitchen sink, she thought about a multi-billion-dollar business idea. Now, because she's popular, she just felt I could go ahead and start this business. She gave the name, it wasn't Skims before, she gave it Kimono. Now she encountered a few challenges. A lot of you want to start a business, you have a brilliant idea, and sometimes the first person you tell steals your idea. I've had a couple of ideas, brilliant ideas, and I'm one to share with my friends, and I shared with my friends. And let's just assume that there was a delay in me starting that business, right? And the next thing I see my friend doing that business. How will it make you feel? Terrible. Make you feel terrible. Or maybe you go to the grocery store and the next thing you see something very familiar. Maybe you pick up a toy and like, I thought about this thing first. I've never had that experience. Like you see something like, oh my God, if I had just taken action, I would have been the one that created this soap or something like that. All right. And so Skims had some initial issues. She didn't consult her lawyer. She just felt, you know what, I'm going to succeed in these things. It's a beautiful idea. It's actually a beautiful idea, isn't it? And the reason why she didn't consult was because she was going into e-commerce. She had an idea that instead of doing the regular marketing and all that, she was just going to use her social media. She did have followers anyway. And all she just needed to do was come out and say, I'm launching my shapewear line, and it is for all shades of woman, right? And everybody will be interested, And then she came out with that idea, I think it was last year or 2019. And she said she wanted to call it kimono. How many of you know what kimono is? So kimono is a traditional Japanese wear, exactly. And so there were legal issues with her trying to use kimono. Although it's a generic name, that means it's a name that everybody uses. It existed for over 1,000 years. However, you can't just own something like that. Alright, but she didn't know that. And because she didn't consult her lawyer. I assume that if she consulted her lawyers, they would have told her you can't use this name. It might not necessarily even be her lawyer. She could have consulted the company registry. Every country has a body of laws that protect or guide, dealings as a company. Alright, she could have just gone to the registry and said, is this name available? Can I use this name? Will I be infringing on the rights of any other person if I use this name? Alright, and so there are legal issues that are naturally transpire from just wanting to have an idea to creating that, making that idea commercial. Are we together?
Yeah.
All right. And so it's important that when you meet a lawyer or when you want to talk to a lawyer, you need to know, what do I need to know about this industry I'm getting into? Are there laws that govern it? If there are laws, what do I need to do to comply? All right. I cannot stand here and tell you all the laws there are in Nigeria. All right. But I can give you an idea and say there are laws. The very fabric of you even running your company is it's an idea that came from law. All right. So if you want to run a business and you go and register it, that entity becomes what? A legal entity, and it takes on its own personality. All right. So that means that there may be things that will guide how you interact. All right. The same way you can't just slap Jane. No matter how annoying she may be, right? The reason why you can't slap her is not because of ethical reasons or moral reasons, but because if you slap her, she can sue you. Am I right? Alright, so deep down you know that there are laws that govern how I relate with Jane. Alright? And sometimes you may choose to know them, sometimes you may choose to know. Alright? There are risks involved if you don't know laws that govern your relationship with her, because when you step on her toes and then she knows the law and she sues you, you start feeling bad. Why did she sue me? Why did she do this? But she's acting within her rights. All right, the same way your company has rights, all right, that the law has given it, okay, or your ideas have rights. So for those who have not registered their company, your ideas actually have rights. You have the right to protect your ideas, and that's why the kimono, they call them the kimono collectives in Japan, said no. If Kim should register kimono, that means we have to start paying her certain amount of money for using the name kimono on our brand. As Japanese, it's our culture. Why is she using it? All right, and so there was like an outcry. And I'm not sure if anybody applied against her, but she immediately took down the name and said, you know what, I'm not going to do that anymore. However, when I checked, I noticed that she put in a trademark application for the name kimono, kimono wall, kimono bodysuit, and I can tell you that I'm sure it was denied. All right, so we're going to talk about some of the intricacies of starting your business, protecting your rights, protecting your ideas, all right, and then getting a lawyer as well. Now, I know you say, why do I need a lawyer? I don't have that money. But you need to plan. As an entrepreneur, you've got to plan these things, all right, and you have to plan a lawyer into your business, especially if your business is a good business. If you plan to expand, you plan to reach the ends of the earth, of the world, you've got to work with a team of experts that can help you. One of them is a lawyer. And you don't need to have a lawyer when you enter problems. You start now. Before you start, maybe when you start, and along the way. Alright. So let's go on. One of you who raised issues about contracts. Who was the person? Someone said contracts here. She also said something about shareholding. Alright, so for the purposes of this class, I will restrict myself to a limited liability company. Alright, I know some of you have business names or want to register business names. People register business names because I feel that they wouldn't really understand the structure or starting a business. So they just look for the cheapest one because I'm an entrepreneur. So let me start small. Alright. However, when you register a business name, there's no difference between you and your business. So for instance, if your business goes into liabilities, they will come after your personal assets. if you own a business name, if you register a business name. But if you register a limited liability company, as the word implies, limited liability, what happens is the degree to which you are affected personally is limited. Is limited to your equity in that business. Alright, yes. So I always advise people that go for a limited liability company. So if you want to start a business that has shares. Alright, shares are like equity. So for instance now, let's say me and my sister, we want to go into business. Now because she's my sister, I naturally just want to get in bed with her and start the business. But what if something happens between me and my sister? For instance, let's say I was living with my sister 6 years ago, and one day she said something so far and I walked out of her house. I packed my load and I walked out. And we haven't spoken in 7 years, but we have a business together. How is that? Is it possible? You know, if I'm petty, I will fight hard with that business. So that means that business will die a natural death. Am I right? Yes. However, it's possible for siblings to fight and still be in business. Case in point, the Kardashian family. Sorry, I'm making reference to them today. Alright. But they are so easy, you know, in terms of examples. So I'll give an example. There was a time in the Kardashian life where one of the sisters was fighting with two of the sisters. So they are about 5 girls or so and a boy, right? And they were fighting, but guess what? Their businesses together were moving stronger. And sometimes they will see themselves on set, even though they are fighting, it doesn't affect the work. Why? They had certain legal documentations that guided their relationship in business. Alright, a lot of you go into business with your husband, your friends, your family, maybe your neighbor, and you don't think to have any documentation. You don't think that maybe, just maybe, I mean, you're a peace-loving person, but just maybe one day something happens and then you guys fight, right? So what happens to the business you have together? How do you split your shares, or how do you split profit, or how do you steer the company to the next phase of the company's growth? Alright, so it's important that you have certain legal documentations that will help your business. Alright, even as a startup, it's important that you know these things. Alright, so that when you are starting your business, or you look at your business and realize we don't have this document, you can always go back to what? To getting it, or sitting down to document these things. Alright, so I want to talk about some of these documents. One of it is the founders agreement. There are 4 documents that I advise every startup to have. 4 documents. The first one is founders agreement. Now, like the name implies, and I'll use Ifyok's family as a case study. Ifyok has told us she's a family person, if she's going into business, she wants her family to have shares. So the first thing I will tell Ifyok, if she's sitting in front of me, you need to register your company as a limited liability company. Alright? So if Ifyok says, I don't want to run the company with my family though, I just want them to be able to benefit from it. So I tell Ifyok, right? So I tell Ifyok, you can be the will and the mind of that company. You can be the director of that company. So you are handling the day-to-day activities of that company, right? But you don't want your family to bother and say, no, don't buy this machine, buy that one. No, don't do it this way. Because family can be like that. Yes, they are very nosy. We love them, but they are very, very nosy. And you don't want that. So what you can do is, don't make them directors in your company. You know, so when you're registering the company, your directorship will not have your family members involved. Actually, when it comes to corporate governance laws, your family shouldn't even be on the same board with you. Yes, corporate governance. I'll give you a case study. Oceanic Bank. How many of you have accounts in Oceanic Bank? Okay, so that bank had all the families of the Igbo family in, plus the ones they married, the ones they did not marry, father, mother, uncle, auntie, they were all sitting down in the board of that company. And so if they wake up one day and say, all the deposits, we want to use it to fly to China and have family party, nobody could question them, all right? Not even the shareholders, because we didn't even know what was going on, all right? And then when we finally discovered, thank God to corporate governance law, what happened? A lot of people lost their money. A lot of families lost their money in Oceanic Bank, and it took them several years. Some of them are still in court as we speak. All right, so you don't want to do business with your family in that sense. And if you're going to do business with your family, let them restrict them to being shareholders. All right, so shareholders are people that own shares in that company. They have a stake in that company. They probably have equity in that company. Maybe they invested. So if you're maybe you wanted to start a business and your starting capital was 1 million, for instance, and maybe your father gave you 500,000. Your own share was 400,000, then your sisters 50,000, maybe two of your sisters 50,000. All right. Now, as your lawyer, I will tell you, okay, this is how we are going to do the share capital. Your father can take 400, you borrow money from him, you have 500, and then you give the remaining 100, so that you have controlling shares. All right. And then by that, even if anything happens to you, because you have documented it and registered that company, whenever they need to share dividends or profit, it will follow that same format. All right. If you don't want any family member to argue with themselves, have a will. How many of you have a will? How many of you have a will? Do you? You don't have a will. No. Will, like when you testament will. No, like you are thinking in mind that you know.
Yeah.
Not spiritual, no. Not spiritual. Document will. So if a man dies, for instance, you know, and he has a lot of assets, how do they share it? You put how you want them to share it in a will. Everybody must have a will. Whether you are young or old, if you have assets, it's important to have a will. The most educated people fight for property. Yeah. The most educated people fight. So if you have a family that they are most likely, maybe you made like $5 billion, or your company is worth $5 billion, and you know, the person dies. The family that has never seen $5 billion before will fight. Even the ones that have not seen. I've noticed that, you know, the people that really go to court are people that have money to spend. So they will go, they know that if I spend 10% of that money, it's fine. So if I get $4 billion, I'm okay. And they'll fight for that money. They won't even bother that they are related by blood. Alright. So, but when you have documentation like a will, you know, how a company should be run, and you put all these little documents in place, founders agreement, and some other documents like that your lawyer will know about, then you won't have issues like that. Alright. So, it's important that you have a lawyer.
Do they pay lawyers monthly?
Alright, so lawyers are paid either monthly as in-house counsel, or you can put them on a retainer. So it can be a 6 months retainer, it can be 1 year, it can be 10 years, although lawyers would prefer 1 year retainership. Alright, so then you can renew.
Questions, just keep going.
You keep asking them. So you can put a lawyer on a retainer, you pay the person either monthly or every year.
Absolutely. I had to get a lawyer to draft some documents.
Okay.
Because I intend to employment. So
Okay, fantastic.
yeah, so I got a lawyer to draft the guarantees.
Yeah, I know
a lot of things.
I will talk about it. Yes,
Okay.
I'm listening.
Okay, so you know, I didn't know how. Sometimes I just up and ask him questions. So, but he hasn't asked. I paid him some money, but he hasn't asked me for any.
Did you have a contract, an agreement with you and your lawyer?
No.
That's another mistake. So what you've done to that lawyer is giving him a blank check. And he's doing work for you. So
Yes.
the law says that he has billable hours. So he might not give you his invoice, but the day he makes, so maybe he needs money. Just think, that girl has been giving her advice. and then he sends you a bill. And you're like, from where to where? I just ask questions. But asking questions is actually his job. Answering those questions is his job. They are called legal opinions, whether orally or in writing. Alright? So you must have an agreement with him. Let's
Okay, yeah, I just wanted to say something in line with what she said. Same with me as well. So it's important to have like maybe just tell her Veronica, we need to have an agreement for like retainership or something.
Yes.
Because I have this lawyer that did excuse me, self-level agreement between my company and some other company.
Okay.
And then I see myself going to her like, real estate. You can't do without lawyers. So, but saying attending this now is a great one for me. So I know that I need an agreement between myself and my lawyers instead of just the one-off thing like I need this and then I get paid for it. Thank you.
So sometimes when you are negotiating for a retainership, because it's a longer period of time, you can get reduced costs. So that's one of the benefits of having a retainer. There's a company that I am on a retainer with, but they are a startup company. Now the thing with startups is that we know that money is tight. It's not that they don't have money, they have capital to start. And they have started, right? But sometimes cash is tight. And the first to go is the lawyer, because they are thinking, what do I need a lawyer for? Right? But they do need a lawyer, especially if it's a business that engages in a lot of product giving or services. Your customer might not tell you, but you and your customer have a relationship by law. And so if you don't define your relationships, the law will define it for you and you may not like it. So it's always good to use the law to define your relationship to your advantage. And that's what your lawyer will do for you. Alright? That's what your lawyer will do for you. Alright, let's move on. So a founder's agreement. Now I wrote here that a founder's agreement outlines what? Your management structure. So before you start a business with your family, your friends, or anybody that you feel, oh, I can do this business with this person, have an agreement. Have an agreement. Our culture in Africa is to just do things, let me just start. Alright, and a lot of the cases we have in court today are, stem from let me just start. Alright, don't just start. Take your time and pen down what you will accept in the next 5 years, what you will not accept. You need to be able to define your roles, alright, as co-founders or multiple founders of a business. Alright. I remember one time somebody approached me and he said he wanted to start an e-commerce business with someone else. And he was about to sign. He even had an agreement he downloaded online. That's also very risky. And he wanted to say, please, can you just help me review it? And by the time I saw this contract, I was like, did you download this from the internet? And he said, yes. I said, no, don't do that again. The internet gives you templates, but that template might not necessarily work in the circumstance. Number 2, the laws in the country you are in might not accept some of the terms in that clause, that generic clause. Alright, so you need a lawyer to be able to help advise you and guide you, alright, on certain things. How do I structure this business? So he came to me and I said, so how do I do it with this person? How am I going to share it? How do I, yes, the two of us want to do business together, but I want to have more say. Alright, now if he did not come to me, he won't know how to approach it. He will just assume 40-50 or 40-60, one number is bigger than the other, but not necessarily so. Especially if the person has a good lawyer that can say no. We started this company together and shows proof. I brought my money, you are only the one directing. So what do you understand? So you need to be able to, in your founder's agreement, every one of you must have a founder's agreement. Even if you are starting the business with yourself, have an agreement for yourself. Have you ever heard of pay yourself? They've taught you about, have they taught you yet about pay yourself? Not yet. Alright? But you've heard about pay yourself. Why will I pay myself a business and do it, fairly in that sense? If I don't have an agreement that guides what I will put into the business. Have you seen people's businesses taken away from them? Maybe the bank takes your business because you took a loan. Maybe you took a loan, your collateral, so they say, okay, your collateral is not enough to pay your debt. So we are going to take over the running of this company. We will make it profitable. We will take the profits, and you won't have any say in your business for the next 10 to 20 years. Yes, there are things that happen like that. Alright, so you need to be able to have a founder's agreement, like I said, that outlines your management structure, outlines your profit sharing, outlines non-compete terms. Now, some of you go into business with a friend or with somebody you trust, and then 6 months down the line, the person says, I don't think we can move on with this, but we have differences in opinions. Our values have changed. Let's say your values have evolved, right? And you can't do business with that person anymore. All right, let's say, for instance, the person is not ethical. Maybe the person would rather bribe than go through the process of just Nigeria, just go through the process and do your thing slowly but surely. And maybe your other partner is sharp, let's just pay them and get something out, right? And then you now split. And you split comfortably, but then your partner goes and starts a business like your business. And takes all the ideas from your business, your processes, and does it again. So it's important that you exactly. What did you say?
And even take some of your clients.
And take some of your clients. But do you know that if you had a founder's agreement, you would have protected yourself from this? It's called non-compete. All right. There are some things that the lawyer will put inside that agreement that will protect you and also protect the other person as well. Alright, so things like you stealing our ideas, it's not possible. So sometimes if you work in a place that they do a lot of processes, they invent a lot of processes. Let's say, for instance, there's this girl, she started a company called Taylor. How many of you have heard of Taylor? It's a furniture company. They have this famous white, have you seen that white table that has brown legs?
Yeah, okay.
Have you seen that on Instagram?
Yes.
Alright, so the girl created Taylor, but she worked somewhere before. They were doing an interview with her, and she said she worked in a manufacturing company before. Now, as the lawyer of the manufacturing company, my mind is already off. I'm just assuming, did she take any of our designs where she was going? Is she using any of our processes to design her work? I want to know. Alright? And as a sharp lawyer that needs to be paid at the end of the month, I go to my boss and say, I found cause. We need to sue this girl because she's taking some of your processes, she's taking some of your designs, your ideas, while she was working with you. So even if she created that thing, right, in the course of service to us, right, she's supposed to own the right of everything that comes out of her mind. Wow. Now some of you worked in places and you just signed your contract of employment. I just want money. But inside that contract, there are clauses there, tricky clauses that say anything you create while working for us is for that company. It's called intellectual property because guess what? The boss has created an environment for you to think. Yes. So he deserves. In that sense, he deserves that thing. So, as somebody who creates things during the course of business, you have to also protect yourself. Do I want to give the rights of this beautiful idea to my company? Alright? Do we understand? So that's why you need these kinds of agreement. I'm sure you never thought of it that way.
No.
Maybe I write something for you're an administrator, for instance, and I'm sure you do a lot of writing. And let's say you come up with a beautiful letter structure. Maybe that letter structure has never been written in the entire way, and you write it late. No matter how good that letter is, it's not for you. It's for the company. Do you understand? Alright. Except you are the kind of employee that says, no, if you are going to do this and I come out with this beautiful book, I take 10%. Every book you sell, I take 10%, you take 90%, I'm okay with that. And then the company has the wherewithal to take your book all over the world. So every book they buy, any customer buys, what? You get 10% of it. That's called royalty. Alright. It's also something you do when you're protecting your intellectual property, when you're protecting the things that have come out of your mind. Alright. But you wouldn't know any of those things if you don't sit with a lawyer and hash it out. Alright. The second legal document, and we're going to have like a class scenario about this, because I know some of you are going to go into giving, what do they call it? Some of you are going to go into businesses that provide services or products. Services or products. Now, Victoria mentioned something. She said, there was a third party that had access to all of their, all of her company's secret, maybe what they call it, emails, access to your clients and all that. Now, 3 and 4, it's called non-disclosure agreements, right? You also have contracts with third party, all right? And I said the purpose of some of these contracts, non-disclosure agreements and then contracts with third party is what? For confidentiality purposes, all right? And to also protect your intellectual property. Now, if you have a non-disclosure agreement, which you must always have, for instance, you have an idea and then you walk up to your friend. Before I share that idea with my friend, please can you sign a non-disclosure agreement? Even if I don't take, yes, with your friend. Yes, with your friend. Because that friendship divulge the information. Exactly, to a third party. The person doesn't, except the information is already publicly known. But if it's an idea that, let's say, I'm spiritually inclined, I said, the spirit told me, this is how we're going to do, this is the process. It's $1 million idea, right? And then I want to share it with someone because I don't want to forget it. So I call a friend. I don't just tell that friend, even if I trust that person, I don't even just tell my husband. Because we've had situations where husbands and wives have fought over property, fought over business ideas. I'm the owner of this, you are the owner of that. No, I'm the one, when you were making the solution to that soap, I said something, and that's why you had the idea to do step 3, 4, 5 of your processes. Yes. You see, business is a risk. And you must always anticipate every risk. That's what makes you a successful entrepreneur. Being able to anticipate a risk and you be prepared for that risk. And these are some of the ways you prepare for risk, legal risk. Have a non-disclosure agreement. How much will it cost you compared to how much you will lose? Alright? So always have a non-disclosure agreement, whoever you're sharing a business idea with. Because remember, you are building your business. Remember, you have goals for your business. In 10 years, your business wants to have taken over Africa, alright, or over Asia, alright. So it's important that you have a non-disclosure. We're going to go to in a bit, but it's important you have a non-disclosure agreement. And a lawyer will draft it for you. You can get a template online, but you might not be protecting you. Yes?
Sorry, I have a question. Okay, so without a lawyer, if I have a non-disclosure agreement and I don't have a lawyer, it can't work.
No, it can work. But guess what? There are far bigger risks than someone who has a lawyer who has gone through that non-disclosure.
Okay, so that's the mistake I made. I actually always have a non-disclosure agreement with staff or people when they dabble into business.
Okay.
But I realized that along the line they still just go against it, and then I don't even really get to do anything per se because maybe I can't.
All of these agreements would require a lawyer to draft.
Yes.
Including the founder.
All agreements, actually. All agreements.
So that's why retainership is better than one-off or
exactly. So for a one-off lawyer, it doesn't really, he owes you a duty of care to the work you have specifically given him. But on a retainer, it's a bit more broad, right? So you can ask for legal advice if you have a retainer with a lawyer, and the lawyer will be willing to grant it and spend as much time giving you legal opinion than someone who you are not paying. You just say, just go like that, it's fine. Yeah, go. But when you come and say, I went that job, he said, I don't understand how. That thing you told me to do, I never told, and the lawyer will deny it. The lawyer will deny it, except you can prove that he said it. And then if you say, I did say it in my capacity as a lawyer. I said it in my capacity as a lawyer. And he will prove it. Yes, and they will prove it. We have a lawyer here, right? They will prove it. They will even go and they will do research. Yes, this case, maybe I'll take it to the Supreme Court. They will use it to Yoruba people say plaster. They will use it to shine in that sense. Alright. So your non-disclosure agreement, especially for someone like you, that you deal, I'm sure you deal with a lot of artisans. Maybe you need to produce something and then you work with them. How does your
I have supplements.
Suppliers, sorry.
Yes.
So you have suppliers.
Yes, like supply my products.
Okay. Do you have an agreement with your suppliers?
No, everything is verbal. Yes, verbal. Everything is verbal for now. So those guys don't understand this.
That's what you think. That's what you think. That's what you think.
Wow. And I noticed, and you know, my business is very high risk. Very high.
Why is it high risk?
Because it's usually between me and the customers actually. That's what it is.
Yeah, but then there's a relationship between you and your supplier. And if you don't get your goods from your supplier, it affects your customer. It affects the relationship that you have with the legal relationship you have with your customer. And if I am an insane customer, I will go after you. I won't care if it's word of mouth or something. I don't care. You are standing as a supplier in this chain. That's why you must protect yourself as the middleman. Now, I'm sure you've done business and it's been okay so far. But when you're doing business, you have to think about the worst case scenario. It's not being pessimistic or negative. It's just an analysis. Going into business is evaluating the market, evaluating the parties involved. And you must understand that every relationship is guided by law. Do you know that there are laws governing relationships with third party? Do you know? With third party. So there are laws that govern relationship with you and your supplier in Nigeria. So if you don't have a document that aligns with that law, you are not complying. You are not complying with law because you've entered into a relationship with them. Now your relationship with them might be oral, right? And some courts will agree that you can make claims to oral. Maybe I said, no, do 2, and the supplier said, you say I should do 22. How do you documentation is always better. It's clearer. Nobody can come and say, I didn't say. So when you are doing business based on I said, you said, the risk is really high. That's why you say high risk. But it doesn't have to be a high risk business.
The risk part I'm even talking about is because I do pay on them.
Okay.
So it's actually between me and customer. Like,
yeah, you always
and then the logistics company, those two. That's where the risk.
So that means do you have an agreement with your logistics company?
Because they are not. See,
so
most of them
do you have insurance? Okay. So these are some of the things that I'm telling you to take note of.
Okay.
You need to start having documentations with all these relationships you have. So now you just told me that. Sorry, I have to move.
No problem.
Thank you. Please let me know how much time I have. Now, Jane has a fantastic e-commerce business. Now, there are laws for e-commerce. Jane, e-commerce. It's amazing that we live in Nigeria. As in Nigeria allows us a lot of things that we don't know. But one day for the tea. I mean, every day for the tea, one day for the Alright, so you run an e-commerce business. That means that Jane has relationship with a lot of people. We've identified that you have a relationship with your customers. What is the document that guides this? With your customer. They buy online. Yeah. Do you have terms and conditions? You don't have?
Yeah, I usually book when I'm discussing with them.
So discussions too. Alright, so Jane is a talking owner. I don't want to call you a talkative, so let me call you a talking owner.
Chats. It's usually
chat.
It's documented. Yeah,
it's documented.
It's usually chat. I make sure they chat.
Alright.
I make sure I chat.
So she has some form of documentation chat. But how many law courts will accept chats in Nigeria as a form of evidence? It's possible now.
Use text.
It's possible. Text. Evidence, chat.
Yes,
WhatsApp
It's
chat.
admissible.
Electronic.
It's admissible. What happens when your phone spoils?
Back up.
What if you didn't back up? Because I don't think you back up. Do you pay for iCloud? Oh, sorry. Do you back up your messages
Every day.
every day?
I'm saying I have to.
You back it up. At least you reduced your risk. So your risk used to be 100%. Now, from what you told me, maybe 99.5%.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, but where the risk is okay. So we spoke. I showed you what I'm selling, and then all of a sudden you decide
You are not buying again.
yes, and all the money I spent. You know,
So is that smart?
People will steal your idea and go elsewhere.
Is it a smart way of doing business?
but at the moment,
It's paying your bills, but is it a smart way of doing business?
because I've weighed it. Do you get? I found that a lot of people are actually willing to. They can't buy if it's not pay on the bill.
Okay. So your business is a trust business, right? So a lot of things you do based on trust. You trust that this person will not turn his back, even when you do 100% of everything they want, will not turn against you at this point. Right? But then you have this relationship with your supplier. Then you also have the transport. You've told me you don't have insurance. In short, your risk is back to 100. You don't have insurance. That's problematic. You don't have documentation. You don't have insurance. So let's say the supplier supplies. They don't supply to you directly. They supply to him. They give him.
They don't have access to.
They don't have access to the channel.
Yes.
Okay, so you are the middleman at all points.
Yes.
So these people do to you.
Yes.
So you check. Do you have a means of checking what you like, what you don't like?
Yes.
And do they have like a policy, return if you don't like it?
Yes. I make sure before I transact.
Alright. Okay, so this is based on your own taste.
Yes.
What if it gets to the customer and it doesn't like your taste?
That is what the issue is. So that's what I want to see.
Alright. So you have dealings with this person, but they don't connect in any way.
Yes.
You are the connection.
Yes.
You need to have an agreement with all these people. 1, 2, and 3. Now the agreement you need to have with your customer is T&C. Terms and conditions, terms of use, terms and services, or terms for services if you are doing services. Alright. You need to have policies that guide how can they return your products if they don't like it. So they pay for something. You know, there are some clients, they pay for something. They don't take they want to try it up, but something happens. So for 3 weeks they've not tried it, and the next they call you, hello madam, I just tried this thing, it's not size 12, it's size 10. Alright. No, I'm a UK 12, not an American 12. Do you have a chart? Do you have a what do they call it?
Like a policy that says after 3 days you can.
After 3 days, you can't return. Alright. So those are some of the things that will be included in your T&C. Because you run a business online, because I'm guessing they get to you online, you need to follow laws that govern online commerce. And you don't even have a clue. That means if I was a compliance person for government and I just woke up on that day, I want to start doing my job, you are the one they will come for as the scapegoat. Do you get what I mean? So to avoid being the scapegoat of any government, you need to protect yourself with all these things. Your T&C must have privacy laws. It must look at data protection. It must look at consumer protection law. I think there's a law called consumer protection, and so many other laws. Alright, that you must put into cognizance as you begin to expand. Now you are getting away with a lot of things because you are just starting and you are in a country that doesn't really pay particular attention. And you can get away with a lot of things. However, I said every day for the team. One day for them. The same way she was asking about taxes, there are a lot of startups that don't pay taxes, but they have TIN numbers. And so TIN number is your tax identification number. So when you register your business, they give you a TIN number as well, or you have the right to go and get a TIN number. So whether you operate that business or not, like a lot of Nigerians,
The tax showing that.
exactly.
One day they will come for you.
One day, the government will wake up and say this is what they want, and they come after the people who can't defend themselves, the small businesses, the MSMEs, and they say start paying something. By then, your taxes would have increased to about 10 million naira, or 15 million, or 20 million because of defaults. Alright, so I always advise that you start small and get a lawyer that will help you with your compliance. There's compliance you need to do every year. There's compliance you need to do in 3 years, in 2 years. Every day there's compliance. The law changes every time. Alright? So yeah.
Okay, so sorry, I want to ask something related to my kind of business. So you do like short legs, and there are these guys that they come use the apartment and then just use it anyhow.
Yes.
So how do we go about that? So we have like rules and regulations, but they'll tell you that I didn't see it. So I always tell the guys there that when they are coming in, give this to them. Aside from sending it to them online, when they want to go, you send it to them. And then you also give it to them that please read through before you go in. But when they leave, you hear them say, it's just a spoon. So in our important notice, we wrote there that keep our things the way you met it, and for any missing item or anything, whether it's a pencil or not, we are going to charge you 10K. But for maybe like return clients or something, they will not say, it was only a teaspoon that was missing now, just check it very well. But it wasn't. So how do you go about those clients?
Alright, so you started it properly by giving them a notice. Now it now depends on you. You can either say, is it worth going after this person legally or not? There are some clients, there are some customers that take in, they can remove your TV and you won't know. Maybe by the time you check it, they've already checked out. Where do you find them from? So usually we advise clients collect they call it caution fees. Alright, so if anything is missing, you know that caution fee can take care of it. Excuse me. Except you know where the person lives. You know where the person works. Or you ask them questions like, okay, can you give us your workplace? And you have a department that verifies these things. And a lot of businesses don't have that. Right? So what you just do is you take a caution fee before. So if they damage anything, there's proof of damage there. And you also have your insurance to cover for the loss. Alright. But there's nothing you can do apart from you have a legal documentation, they sign it, you can take them to court.
Okay, so maybe we should ensure like signing something that you're going to keep this place, they should always sign.
Exactly. So terms of use is what you use. And then before they enter them, because they shortlet, they must sign.
I want to ask to be specific concerning my own business, because I do both killing and fish.
Yes.
So I'm looking at it, although I'm aware that maybe you need to have documents that will protect. Presently, I'm the one doing it, but I will protect the life of
Your fish.
No, the people doing the killing, because it has to do with fire.
So insurance. So you do insurance for them. Okay. Now, there's a law called, it's the Labor Law of Nigeria. There's also Workmen Compensation Act. Right? There are some laws that ensure that when you employ somebody, you have to protect that person. So you can do liability insurance for your people. Or you can do, when you talk to an insurance company, you can now tell you can go ahead and do something extra. But there are different insurance policies that you can do for your employees. And you must do it for them. You must work towards it. If you don't do it now, you must work. Because God forbid, fire kills that person. As the person was working for you, the law says you have been careful life for the death of that person. So you must pay the person's family. Alright. Especially if the family say, this woman was wicked, they are going to go after her. Or this man was wicked, it was a wicked person, so they go after you and they don't care. We have a particular legislation for things like the employment cases in Nigeria. Alright, so it's important as an employer that think about these things and do them. And then it's also good to put it in their contract as well. That you do book, and sometimes what you do is they are contributors to it, you two are contributors to the plan. So you co-contribute to the plan. So if anything happens to them, the insurance will take care of it. It doesn't have to be money from the organization.
Sorry, my question is, now there are so many agreements to sign.
So you have to
Yes, there are so many. And for instance, now the example you gave about telling your friend about an information that is top secret, and then the person signs an NDA, non-disclosure agreement. But because it's your friend, so many people don't take these things seriously. So maybe it's just paper now, and then this person has broken the agreement, maybe told somebody else, or this other one has done like a lot of. If there are so many agreements to sign, the probability of some people breaking it is
minimum.
No, it's actually more, yes, because people offend. So this one has done this one has done this one. So am I supposed to start suing people?
No, it's up to you. If your idea is, do you know how many people have sued people and gotten their life's work? Yeah, right. So maybe you had an idea that was what? Okay, I'll give you an example. McDonald's. Do you know that the person that owns McDonald's, like the McDonald's we know, is not the person that invented the processes of the burger and all those things? Right? But because the brothers, the people that the McDonald brothers, that what they call them, the McDonald brothers, they didn't understand that they needed to have an agreement with the shoe businessman that joined them. Alright, they didn't have a compact agreement with them, and they didn't know that they could sue. I mean, what's the point of suing? It was much later that they went to meet the man and got maybe a percentage of the first franchise he had, and in that agreement sold their rights to their processes and all that. And the man now, exploded because he knew they had a winning strategy of making burgers on time and things like that. And he took their style, their process, and because he had a business sense, he went all over the world and made much more. And so when the brothers saw their burgers, their processes, they were upset and they went back. When he showed them the contract, that did you not sign? He showed them the clauses. Alright, so there was nothing they could do. They went to court, but they didn't get anything. Now, it depends on you, and it's always going to be your choice. Do you want to go to court or you don't want to? Alright.
What if somebody breaks the first, like I signed some agreements with you, I've gotten away with the first one, I didn't stick with it, and nothing happened, and then nothing like. Is there what?
And that's your choice. But you have an option. You have an option to sue. So you now need to
expensive.
So that means you are taking it.
And
You
that's why
feel
a lot
that
of people just get away with a lot of things
exactly.
because they know that nobody would
exactly. So you just feel it's just your choice.
Can I
Yes.
Like how much is it to sue for?
I can't tell you exactly because they vary. Depends on what you are doing. There are some contentious cases, like cases that are really cases that are really problematic and can go on for 10 years. That means you continue paying the lawyer. There are cases that you just do one off and you get your money. Like recovery of debt, for instance. How many of you know you can recover your debt by using a lawyer?
Can I?
You have a lawyer. Alright, let me quickly finish this slide.
Sorry, can I ask a question before? Just something. How do you, for someone that's got money from you online, can you also sue that person when, like, someone promised to maybe deliver something like all these social media influencers and all, and then you realize that they said it was someone that used their brand?
Say that again.
Okay, so I engaged some influencer online and then we got talking. So when I sent the request that I would like to advertise something for, they advertised something, I said I was interested. Immediately somebody chatted me up. I said, hi, I'm so and so, you indicated interest in this. I said, yes. How much is it? You need to make payments in this account, Jacobel or something. And I did. 3 days later, they came on that group and said, this person is a fraud, we're using our own image.
So that's
and then they have the same account name. Do you understand? So somebody was now saying that, how can even Access Bank allow you to create a name? Joya Kosa is even the name I can remember. Do you understand? So what do you do in cases
All
like
right,
that?
so for cases like that, you need to, first of all, the bank is going to be involved.
Yes, okay.
And the CAC. So when I'm suing them, when I want to sue, I'll sue that person. Even if the person is an unknown person, you can't get your money from that person. You might not find that it's cyber crime, but I can get my money from the bank. Yeah? Somebody didn't do their job well.
Yeah.
All right, so if you have time,
I
And-
do actually,
and-
I don't mind to take it off.
and you don't mind taking it up, and you have your documentations and all that, then you just need to get, the lawyer will develop a case for you, look at all the options, the best option, and then you
Now, they
can.
said I need to go to court to do something before taking it to the bank. That I need to,
What do they say you should do?
that I need to go to court to request.
You might have to do it and have it done.
Can I do that without a lawyer or?
You can, but I think the lawyer will need you to file the process for you.
Okay, so maybe when I just get a lawyer, I'll put it on my head.
Exactly.
Thank you.
But you can recover your funds.
I found for yes.
All right. Yeah. So I was at this non-disclosure, but this one, terms and conditions, is very important. I want you to take your notepad, and I'm just going to give you a few instructions, and I want you to draft your terms and conditions. Are you connected to the internet? Yes. Okay, I wanted to show you some pictures. I want you to draft your terms and conditions, right, for your business, your product or your service. Alright, I'll tell you what to do. What's the reason why you are entering into that?
You're writing this now.
Yes, you're writing it down. What are your reasons for having your terms and terms and conditions? So we assume that you are selling something. For Jane, she sells, what do you sell, Jane?
So men,
Okay, menswear. Alright, so Jane has a, so let's use Jane's company, e-commerce. Now, we've established that Jane needs terms and conditions, right? So Jane, what is the reason why you have terms and conditions? I'm giving you examples, alright. But I'm giving you reasons why you need one. So how do you write it in your terms and just write it in? You are writing your terms and agreement. Terms and conditions. For you, it's terms of use or service. If your terms of service. But if you convert the content you create on your own into a product, then you also have terms and conditions.
What will mine be?
You have that product, you are selling fish, you need fish, so a product. So think about what's the reason why we even need the terms and to protect yourself.
Yes.
So you need to be able to draft, I want to protect myself. And so whenever somebody comes to buy fish from me, alright, I must have done X, Y, Z. Right, then pass it for the person, put my NAVDAC number. So I know that I've done all that I needed to do, then I hand it over to the person. Now, you can say if you open the seal, it's not returnable. That can be in your terms and conditions. So when you know your reason why you're doing your T&C, to protect you from loss, right? To protect you from fraudulent clients, right? So what happens? I set my ground rules. So set ground rules for your business. It can be anything. Just write about 5 or 4. Let's do 4.
Can I do an imaginary business?
Yes, please. That business can be a $1 million business in the next few years. So an imaginary business. So tell yourself, what's the reason why I am going into this business, or I'm offering this service, or I'm selling this product? If it's to make profit, then set your ground rules. What are the likely scenarios that can happen when you are doing business with someone? Maybe for Jane, as she had a funny experience, she said just now, you said somebody returned the dress, and there's nothing wrong with it. So set your ground. What are the things that are deal breakers for you? You can't return it. How can you have held my product for 3 weeks? You are now bringing it back to me. When I've closed my shop, I've closed my books for the month. So tell us your ground rules. Set it. If you can't write 4, it's fine. You can write 1, 2, 3. Now, something a lot of people might not know is that you have to decide where your agreement works for. So for Jay, that does an international business, because your business is you can have clients in Tanzania, you need to be able to set an agreement location. Otherwise, the Tanzanians that bought something for you can say, in Tanzania, there's a law that says I can return after 5 weeks, right? Or I can use it, find out the product is not good and return it back and get my full price. But in Nigeria, that's not. But if you leave your terms and conditions open, you don't talk about it, what will happen? There will be a conflict of laws. That's what it's called. And so, where will you have if the customer wants to sue you, which country will they sue you in? For what? Where? Which court will hear the matter? So, in your terms and conditions, which is something your lawyer will help you draft, you need to decide the agreement location. Usually, your lawyer will pick a country that favors the kind of business you're doing. All right. Mostly it's Nigeria, the country where you are domiciled, or where you have pop-up shops or presence. Have you written?
Yes.
You can't put it in words. Try. It doesn't have to make sense. That's why I'm here. Funny enough, to make sense. One or two, write two lines. For instance, now you had something with someone, and the person took away some of the things. So that can also be a terms of use or terms of service. So if that terms of service can also apply to your employees or third parties. So if you want to go into business with my company, right? These are the terms of the service we will do together. Once you have access to it, you have to drop it. You must not log in, you must not do this. Right? Please read out. You seem to be done. Read out.
Okay, so I wrote for terms of use, check-in time is 12 noon, check-out time is 2 p.m. and we are precise.
So what happens if that doesn't?
We take 50% off your fees, and for late checkout, full payments.
Okay. Did you write it?
No, I didn't write it, but I'm just saying.
But you know.
Okay, so I should write that.
Yes.
What happens?
Okay.
What happens after that? Okay. So then, for terms of service, I said no smoking.
All right. Yes.
That, and then no pets required.
Okay.
And then I also wrote no misplacing or damaging of items.
All right.
So, and then failure to do so means we can evict you from the premises.
Do you have a website?
No, we are working to get that.
Do you have a notice board where you paste your terms of use?
No, we have it laminated, so we put it on the table for every client that comes in.
Okay. All right. That's conspicuous. All right. That's good. However, your terms and conditions or terms of use is like an average Nigerian business. And I'll give you an example. If you, how do I use this? Help me. Okay. So I want to go there. I want to click this so that we are connected to the internet. Yes, sample two. Yeah, go to here, click it. Alright. So this is a Nigerian brand, and she has some international appeal. How many of you know April by Kumbi? No. April by Kumbi, she designs wedding dresses. But she moved to Tokyo and she's ventured into a brand called Shobicon. So it's a new brand. They do bags and everything African. So it's kind of like Afro-Asian vibes. So a blend of African and Asian culture. And she comes up with creative stuff, bags, shoes, games, and all that. Right. So this is the terms and conditions that I found on her website. Now scroll down. Sorry, please can I help me scroll? Okay, I can scroll down here. Alright. So I can tell you off the bat that she wrote this thing by herself, right? But she had some idea. Maybe she saw some things online, downloaded it, and tweaked it a bit. She might even have maybe a lawyer friend that let me just help you pick up something briefly, but didn't really focus on it. Alright, so she has some good stuff on her terms and conditions, right? So you need to have something like this.
My website.
Yes, on your website, even on your WhatsApp, even on your what they call it, on your Instagram. Alright, so she does a brief introduction, alright, to her terms and conditions. These terms will be applied fully and affect to your use of this website. By using this website, you agree to accept all terms and conditions written here. You must not use this website if you disagree with any of this website's standard terms and conditions. So she has put it out there that there are rules to operate or buy anything on my platform, right? So that's something you want to do when you are drafting your terms and conditions. She now puts restrictions. Maybe she has been burned, like you were burned by a fraudster online. Alright. Last year November, me and my friends, we bought suits. Or we thought we were buying suits. However, what happened to us was a shocker. The first thing was that the people that delivered the products to us were, not tailor. People that, you probably see them in Idumota. Not the good side of it, the bad side that they don't have any ethics at all. And they came and brought it. The first thing, the suits were inside, folded inside transparent nylon. That was the first red flag. Why did you fold the suit like that? By the time we want to see was coats. We had coats, not trousers, we don't even know. And by the time we called the person, she was like, no. I saw those things, I verified, and that's fine now, right? She doesn't have terms, and if I had that time, I would take her to court, but I didn't have that time. Like a lot of us, we don't have time. And it would just be a waste of my skills, right? But there are some people that they don't mind to spend 500,000, 1 million to teach that person a lesson. Alright. But she has bad ethics. And what I can do is I can just go to her quick and say, this person is terrible, this, blah, 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 blah. Right? So, as you want to have terms and conditions, right? Just also to protect yourself. There are some people that they actually offer really good services, but they have difficult clients. Alright. They might even be one of maybe a first time caller, right? And the person gives you a lot of hassle. But if you have laid down rules, restrictions like this, then the person knows, even if the person did not read it, that's the person's cup of tea. You know that you have put it here. So even if the person takes you to court.
Because that's what they say. I can't read it.
Yes, that's not it. Ignorance is not a defense in law, right? It's not a defense anyway, right? So what you owe them is to make sure it's bold enough. So you see how before terms and conditions used to be in tiny print. So people couldn't read it, so they just signed because they really wanted to get, and guess what? I think there was a case in America or a precedent in America or the UK where they said you must make it bold. It's your duty to make it bold, it's your duty to let them notice it. So you see terms and conditions written on the website, or when you go to a hotel, you see their terms and conditions, posted somewhere. So it's legible, so they can prove that we did give you notice. You are just not a reading type. Alright? Yes. So she has your content, right? But some things that she put here, I noticed. That's how I knew a lawyer didn't write it for, but she copied and pasted. These terms will be governed by and interpreted in accordance with the laws of the state or country.
Nothing.
And submit to non-exclusive duty of the state and federal courts located in country for the resolution of any
Copy and paste.
This is copy and paste. Now, if she gets into trouble, the person can use this against her. State and country doesn't mean anything. Alright? So if she had put in Nigeria, then we know, okay, Nigeria.
She was supposed to tweak it and tweak it. Yeah.
You know what? Sometimes people even actually, she's a detailed person. I'm sure people even have time, they actually go through it, but they might not see it. They might not even notice.
She might not be aware of
She might not even be aware that, she might say, oh, state of content, wow, nice. I really like your drafting, but when you give it to a lot, even if you've got content online, which is not, it shows that you are inquisitive. Always run it through a lawyer to review. You might not pay as much. Alright, but when the lawyer reviews, he's able to say, oh no, tweak it this way. What business do you want to do? What's your goal of writing this thing? Okay, I will help you do this, and then they put some clauses into the contract that are better. Now I'm going to show you a different option. Go back to my slide. I'll show you the scheme version of terms and conditions as we wrap up. If you're can you read your terms and conditions first? Did you come up with any? That's fine. Julie.
No verbal agreement.
Eh?
No verbal agreement.
Fantastic, yes.
In
So
case
that means
without-
no verbal agreement.
Yeah, a case without a signature is void.
Fantastic.
Work outside the scope of what I'm doing comes at another cost.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's a very good point. Because some clients, so she says scope outside the
Work
outside the scope of the
because a lot of people call, talk for hours, advising and everything.
exactly.
Okay, so
So
you
people
work outside your scope. Attract.
Yes, because we very agree this and so
Okay, so it attracts.
yes, it's contact that is yeah, keep it real.
After the scope of what I use, what work do you use?
It's work outside.
I wanted to show you schemes terms of conditions. It's very long. But guess what? That's one of the safest agreements I've seen. Alright, thank you. So long. Oh. Alright, so I want to click on here. Excuse me. You have to tell me. The first year.
The first year, we want to
Yes. Oh wow. It's not good. It should be. Now this is the terms and conditions of schemes. Please can you help me close that? No, close the. Continue to show. Now look at the terms and conditions of schemes, even though it's not updated. The reason why I'm sure the pandemic was supposed to be, I'm sure the American version of this website actually is up to date. But look at it. It talks about the organization, description of their service, right? Because sometimes people they call you for a business or they want to get a good and they feel the good is something more than it is. Or your services are like, for instance now, she can have a client telling her to do extra things that are not within the scope of her expertise, right? And they don't want to pay, but they expect you to know, or they expect you to give them those services, right? So, but if you give a description of your services, that curtails any expectations that your clients might have. Collection of customer data. When people sign up or log into your website, they leave imprints, they leave their digital prints, right? So you want to be able to protect their data, and there are laws that govern that. So even though you copy and paste from the internet, you need a lawyer to apply it to the Nigerian situation, because there's a Nigerian data protection law, all right? And your lawyer will know what to put and what not to put. Eligibility talks about who can be. So there are more clauses here than the other one. Can you see? Content. There's content. What's this one?
You're very fast. I missed.
Please, I need to understand. It's the content of sites and products. Content submitted by users. So what do they do with it? How do they use your information? Referral programs. They probably have, maybe they have, for instance, if you refer somebody to us, you get a percentage discount. Prohibited conduct, things they don't accept. Alright, viruses and whatnot. So they have a long list. Then they have sites that are linked to them. So they have kind of agreement, they have disclaimers. A lot of them
Yes, can you explain that? Because I've had an issue when I told you my counseling experience has been difficult. And then there was a time they told us we should do something about that, disclaimers. And I'm like, how do we like killings to the school environment?
Alright, so for instance now, you are in a school. You need to do a disclaimer that you are only liable for the things that happen to the children within your premises. Right, so before I can't put my child in school, I'll read your disclaimer. So if my child steps out of the school and is kidnapped, the school will not be liable for it. Do you understand? So sometimes you need to you put a disclaimer there to show the extent of your involvement legally in something. Or if you're not going to be involved in it, maybe for instance, a disclaimer is you park your car at your owner's risk. That's a disclaimer. So that means if you park your car there and they steal it away, you can't blame maybe GTB bank where you park or whatever.
That even have the security guard.
That even if they have a security card. Wow. So what happens is the disclaimer reduces the risk or the liability of that person. It reduces your risk or your liability, because dealing with children, anything can happen. For instance, now you tell them stop running, stop and they fall and break their leg, right? The parent will say you hold my child a duty of care, but if you're able to prove that we had a disclaimer that the child is one, the child persists, and now ends up, having a broken leg, it's not our fault. We did all we were supposed to do to protect that child. Alright, so that's what disclaimers are for. The things you cannot do, just let people know, and they assume you do it. Let them know you don't do. For instance, what you put to your terms of and conditions, what you said, you can put in here as a disclaimer. The one about work, when you go outside the scope of work, you have to pay extra. So disclaimer, we charge overtime, right? I will give you invoice no matter what. Expand your invoice. Keep telling us what to do, expand your invoice. So you need to be able to give a disclaimer to that effect.
I told her that she will make it bold.
It's going to always be bold. This is before it used to be very tiny.
I think my thought about, excuse me, in terms and conditions is that they don't even want you to read it. So they don't just sign and then.
Exactly. Because then we didn't really have a lot of customer protection laws. And then we also didn't have a lot of people fighting industries that own manufacturing companies or own things like this. They did. People like, I'm a small guy, let me not fight them. Alright, but immediately there was a case, there was somebody, another girl who was ready to fight, and won a lot of money from it. Subsequently what they did was they start to make it go. So the reason why you have terms and conditions, you don't really want them to know your terms and conditions as an entrepreneur, as a business owner, because sometimes someone can read up front and say, I don't want to buy. That means you've lost a customer just by reading your terms and conditions. Alright. And sometimes you might gain a customer by reading your terms and someone will read it. Say, I like those people, they have what it takes, and then they sign on. Limitation on liability, so they don't want to be liable for certain things. So, Jane, for someone like you that, what's the word, that has to deliver, you have to limit your liability, right, to a certain extent. So, for instance, now, what happens where the bike man that is with your product falls and has an accident and the product is dented? Who is liable for it? Will it be you, or will it be you and the logistics company? So sometimes it's always good to say. Sometimes people say I'm only liable to, like this one put, to a certain period, and to a certain amount. So you cannot be liable to third parties. Yes. So you can always redefine and define, and that's why your lawyer does help substitute. So whatever you want, tell your lawyer. Be open with your lawyer, and then they will help you draft. Miscellaneous can be anything, assignments. If you need, maybe you bought something but you want to, for instance, now maybe I buy goods worth 1 million naira, and then not I, but somebody buys goods 1 million and the person dies. It's possible that the next of kin can take those goods from you. Maybe it's for business or something. Alright, so if you want to be able to define the extent to which you can pass the root of that title to the next person and the next person. Alright, so that people don't show up and say, oh, my cousin came, bought something from you, and then you give it to brother, you are not sure who the next of kin is. Alright, so it's important that you also define that. And
Yeah,
I have a question.
yes.
How do you make an agreement that is very tight, that does not have loopholes? For instance,
every agreement has loopholes.
I watched the movie, the guy actually, he's not interested in their products, but he needs money. So he goes through their agreements and then looks for who has the new cover and then makes sure he falls victim and then takes them to court in that aspect.
Yes,
And
so
then
every law has a loophole, every contract has a loophole. Why you get a lawyer is to reduce your risk. There's risk, but you just need to reduce it. So, yes, thank you. All right, I think my time is up. Has been up.
It wasn't boring.
If you have questions, I'm sure they'll give you the slides.
Yes.
If you have questions, you can always reach out.
Can I get your number?
Yes.
Oh, wow.
All right, thank you.
Lawyer, I hope we'll get a discount coming from you.
question here.
Don't worry,
Don't worry, we'll see how it happens.
Thank you so much for your time.
It was very fantastic class.
Let me say something. I told Ife that I might need to go at any time. But so please pardon me, I have to take my leave.
If we hadn't stopped the class.
No, I was already packing up.
Please, you will need to give us an extra 15 minutes at the end. Because there's a lot.
15 minutes.
15 minutes. I know, because your house is no, I understand. But I observed that last week we posted the announcements. Nobody actually went.
I did.
Nobody commented. There was a lot of information and instruction given on the announcement. And
I commented that.
what was
On
it?
the main, the one that said about our
She posted the announcement and asked everyone to please look at the announcement and then make their comments. And many
Let's just I just acknowledge. I think acknowledgement is
but to acknowledge, we expect that you should go through it, and if you have any comments or need any clarification in any area, we'll be able to explain it to you very quickly. So we don't want people rushing away from the class because it's a lot to do. They're going to have business presentation. You need to know how to present your business. We're also going to have a new paper in the last class. And we also have our web training coming up. It's a workshop which your class is supposed to organize. So you see, that's where we need time to really explain what you're doing. Okay, so that.
Can we have this announcement before the class? Just suggesting.
Yes, you can. However, many other announcements may come up in the course. So even if what we try to use in the beginning of the classes to do is to be able to when we have a presentation like what we have today. We will have reviews, we have feedbacks. So, for example, now after every class, there's supposed to be feedback from you. When you're rushing out, there is no time for the feedback.
Please, you have to post your feedback on the group. Please, you have to post the feedback. Okay, I can do that.
No, there's apart from feedback on the class, on your group, it's supposed to be also live. The last class, we're going to feedback every class, every session. So we know how the session is making better. What you think you gain from it, 1 or 2 insights that you feel that you gain from it. So I'll permit you to stay, Jay. And I'll permit you to stay.
I noticed you're not in the physical group.
And they just
I'm just taking the name, so I'm going to add it.
And that is why the presentation was not balanced. We're supposed to have 2 presentations today, Pepsi and Coca-Cola. So the group was supposed to be divided into 2. So please, we are going to take number now. I'm sorry, we are going to repeat that presentation. No, let's go 1, 2. Everybody please. 1, 2, 1.
So let's do
1, 2, 1, 2. Everybody. So we just.
So what we'll do now is, if now, no, let me explain this. What was done initially was that those on-sites,
yes.